Well, there's been some growing concern as to whether or not the current Speaker of the U.S. House of Congress, and that is Mr. John Boehner, is the guy to lead during these challenging times. And there's been some pushbacks, even with the proposals coming from the Republican side concerning the fiscal cliff. And I want to talk about that a little bit this morning. My special guest is Michael Connelly. He is a retired attorney and U.S. Army veteran, and he specializes in constitutional law. And his practice handled cases involving First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Ninth, and 10th Amendment. If you don't know what those are, go read them. But there's a lot there, and I'd love to have him in to do some sessions just on the Second Amendment, maybe even the 10th Amendment. But Michael, thanks for giving us your time this morning. Good morning. Where are you?
I'm right here. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Listen, you have voiced some concerns about the Speaker, especially now that we're in one of the most critical negotiations in the history of the United States fiscal situation. What are your concerns?
Well, basically, we went over this fiscal cliff over a year ago when Boehner and the Republicans in the House, under his leadership, caved in to Obama, and they appointed this so-called super committee of 12 members of the House and Senate, right. 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans. This was unconstitutional to begin with. It should never have happened. They should not have been appointed. They were told they had to cut $1.5 trillion of spending and make an agreement on that did not have to go through the full Congress to be adopted, and that if they didn't do it, we would have the sequestration, the automatic cuts primarily to the defense budget. That was kicking the can down the road. Now, what Boehner was looking at that point was he assumed that Obama would not be reelected as president. He assumed that the Republicans would take the Senate. Neither of those things happened. So now the chickens have come home to roost, and the Republicans are in a catch-22 situation. No matter what they do, we're going over the fiscal cliff again. We're going to have, if they approve the middle-class tax increases or approve that they will stay as cuts, and approve increases on the so-called higher-level people, which are primarily small businesses, then they're going to be betraying their base, and we're going to see a lot of pushback on Boehner at that point.
He's getting pushback now. Of course, the turnover in Congress in 10 was certainly a result of the Tea Party involvement in the political system, and now they're beginning to push back. Can he survive this?
I don't know. He seems to have quite a bit of support among Republicans in Congress who are worried about the outcome of this. They're all worried about what's going to happen and what they're going to get blamed for. As I said, regardless of what happens, they're going to get the blame because we're going to go into a recession. If they put these higher taxes on individuals making over $250,000, that is going to cause a recession. That is going to cause more job losses. He's looking at a situation where we're going to lose. The Republicans are going to look like losers. They're going to be in a situation where the country is going to have a financial disaster, and they're going to get blamed for it, even though Obama is the one that is refusing to do anything here as far as really make significant cuts to the deficit we have. And the deficit is killing us. And Boehner doesn't seem to be able to deal with this. So, I think that Boehner has got to go. It won't happen during this lame duck session, but maybe it'll happen after the first of the year.
All right, so where is statesmanship when we need it? Why are we just go into kamikaze mode and do the right thing even if it costs us our reelection?
Well, that's just it. We haven't had statesmanship in the House of Representatives or the Senate for the most part for years. When Obama came into office and started appointing these czars, that is unconstitutional. They should have been approved by the Senate. The Constitution requires that. Yet he was allowed to appoint 45 czars who have their own budgets. There's no control over them in Congress. And nobody, I thought one senator for sure would step up and file a lawsuit and say, look, you're violating the Constitution. I can't represent my constituents if I'm not allowed to vote on the people I'm supposed to vote on. Nobody did it. So at that point, I think statesmanship died in the Congress as far as the Republicans and Democrats went, because they've all lost power. The Congress has seen its power taken away by the executive branch of government. Obama's doing things that he's not allowed to do under the second Article 2 of the Constitution, and that is he's supposed to enforce the laws passed by Congress, not decide which laws to enforce and which not, and he's certainly not supposed to be able to make laws, but he's doing that on a daily basis.
So there doesn't seem to be any really respectful fortitude among anybody to call him on the carpet for abuse of powers.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the man took an oath of office similar to the one I took as an Army officer to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Instead, he daily violates the Constitution. He ignores the Constitution. He ignores the balance of power. He launches attacks on the First Amendment and the other amendments of the Bill of Rights. He does this constantly, and nobody calls him on the carpet. I've written 2 blog articles in the last year and a half about his impeachable offenses, primarily based on the fact that he is violating his oath of office. Yet there's no move in the House of Representatives to do anything about it. They could pass a bill of impeachment with a majority vote. It would then go to the Senate, and there would have to be a full-scale trial with the Supreme Court, Chief Supreme Court Justice presiding, and the evidence would have to be presented by both sides. This might wake the American people up, but there's no indication to me that anybody in the House of Representatives is prepared to do this.
All right, a couple of questions here before I run out of time. One is, so is really going over the fiscal cliff a bad thing? I mean, I realize it's got its consequences, but maybe we need to do that in order to make the tough decisions.
Well, it's clear to me that's what's going to happen, that we're going to go over the fiscal cliff one way or the other. People don't realize that not only are the taxes going to go up if we go over this cliff as a result of that, but we have all these new taxes kicking in at the first of the year from Obamacare, which are going to increase taxes to almost all Americans again. So, you know, at this point, it's going to happen, and I think we need to look at it at that point and say, okay, we need to save this economy, we need to save this country, and some hard decisions are going to have to be made at that point.
All right, so if the conservatives were to step up and replace Boehner, who do you think would meet that qualifications in your mind?
I think Issa, Representative Issa of California, would be excellent. He's the only one in the Congress, or one of the few in Congress, that seems to have the fortitude to take Obama on head on and to take Eric Holder on head on.
All right, so what seems to be happening right now is this tit for tat, but at the end of the day, the president appears he's just going to get what he wants. I mean, I don't care what the pushback may verbally sound like from the Republicans. I see this speaker possibly capitulating and giving him everything.
I think he's already doing that. Basically, he made this counteroffer. The president scoffed at it, and Boehner doesn't know what to do at this point. So I think we're going to see him cave in across the board.
All right, Michael, before I run out of time, one other time, just kind of switching topics for a moment. What is the deal with the UN trying to seize the internet? I mean, will that happen?
Well, it looks like it will. There's a meeting going to be going on in Dubai this month, and all the countries are going to be represented. It's to supposedly upgrade a treaty, telecommunications treaty that was signed years ago, and the Russians and the Chinese are pushing to give the UN control of the internet, control of content, control of licensing providers, taxing people who use the internet, and supposedly the United States is opposed to some of this, but the truth is, the word I'm getting is that Obama wants this to happen because it'll give him the kill switch that he couldn't get through Congress, and he wants to control the internet. So this is something we need to watch, because if it's presented to the Senate as a signed treaty, they have to defeat it.
Well, how defendable is it? I mean, what if we just decided not to go along with that as Americans?
Well, the President of the United States can decide not to go along with it. The Senate can decide not to go along with it. Obama seems to think that he can sign this treaty and put it into effect without bringing it to the Senate because it's an upgrade of an existing treaty. That's not true in the Constitution. And the U.S. Justice Foundation, we will be filing a suit immediately if this thing is adopted by the Senate or if Obama tries to implement it. Because in 1957, the Supreme Court ruled that no international treaty, even signed by the President and ratified by the Senate, can supersede our constitutional rights. And this would do that. This would destroy the First Amendment as far as the Internet is concerned.
Wow. God bless you, my friend, for your work. People who want to correspond with you or perhaps be in touch with you through your webpage, and that is?
Well, it's www.michaelconnelly.jigsy.com.
Okay.
That's my blog. I'm also the new executive director of the United States Justice Foundation, and that website is usjf.net. And they can see what we're doing at the fight for the Constitution there.
That's wonderful. Thank you, my friend, for your work and your fortitude. Hang in there. Stick with it.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay.